Did those
together with some of these new people. So, all righty.
Good morning, Andy.
Oh, and Glant is here.
How you doing, Jill?
Good morning, Jill.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our Transportation Commissioner, Ms. Hickey. Great to see you. We will start in about 1 minute.
And then we'll do introductions of new members when we get into the regular meeting after the pre-annual meeting, because we'll have a handful of new folks. Some familiar faces that are newly.
Holly just walked into the forest and disappeared like Narnia. She's going into the closet there.
Aslan is here.
Good one.
Yeah, I really like the forest that you've planted in your office, Holly. That's awesome.
Imagination will take you anywhere, right?
Did you guys upload those backgrounds or did you use the backgrounds provided by Zoom?
I searched on Google Images for Colorado Christmas winter.
Okay.
So this is some small Colorado town somewhere. So
either that or she's redecorated her house.
yes.
Oh, the truth is going to come out now. Okay.
And for my background, it's actually a photograph from a local artist.
And how did you upload it into Zoom?
There's a process to do that. You can do that with all of these online services. You just have to tinker around with the software a little bit until you find the pathway, but it's there.
Yeah,
Stan can help you, Glant.
If you hit the left arrow on stop video, it allows you to go into choose virtual background, and then you should be able to upload. We have all sorts of backgrounds uploaded, such as a dragon, an evil troll.
Oh, look at that. Choose virtual background, choose video filter, and then video settings.
Okay, guys. Okay, we're going to start the meeting.
Sounds like we need a tutorial session on
I
background.
think Stan should lead a tutorial maybe after the meeting when I'm not.
We can do that.
Okay, I am going to call our, what are you calling this meeting, Andy?
Annual
Meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. This is my last time getting to welcome all of you, so I'm going to relish it and probably talk a lot. No, that's not true. Okay, we are here today to elect our new officers and committee chairs. So if you're looking at the agenda, you can see that we had a nominating committee of Holly Williams, Bruce Davis, John Graham, and Norm Steen. So I want to thank all of them for taking the time to put together this slate of candidates, which we as a board did review last month at our December meeting. And we are putting forward a slate today for our 2021 board officers. And that slate is Chair Stan Vanderwerth from El Paso County. First Vice Chair, Sharon Thompson, City of Fountain. Second Vice Chair, Yolanda Avila from Colorado Springs. Dick Elsner from Park County for Secretary. And for Treasurer, Don Wilson, the Mayor of Monument. So at this point, I would appreciate a motion to nominate the slate or bring forward any additional candidates as you see fit.
This is Bruce with the City of Victory. I'll make a motion to accept the slate as presented.
Thank you, Bruce.
And this is Commissioner Williams. I will second that slate.
Thank you very much, Holly. Is there any other discussion before we vote on this slate? Okay, with that, all those in favor of this slate of board officers for 2021, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Congratulations, everyone. So before we gavel out to our new meeting, we also have another agenda item and two agenda items, and that is to appoint our 2021 transit representative. So Andy, help me out here. I know we alternate. I think currently it is Yolanda.
No, it's Yolanda this year. Yolanda 2021 will be it, and I will be the alternate.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. So Sharon, can someone make that motion to appoint Councilwoman Yolanda Avila as our next transit rep with a alternate as Councilwoman Sharon Thompson.
So moved, Holly Williams.
Thank you.
Second, John Graham, Manitou.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank
Any
you,
nays?
everyone.
Congratulations. On to our next and final item, and that is to choose our statewide transportation advisory committee, our STAC board member appointment to the STAC. And as you can see, goodness gracious, there are a lot of folks. Commissioner Norm Steen was our primary representative with a lot of alternates. And I do believe Commissioner Holly Williams is interested in that position. So if there is a motion to make that so, I would appreciate it, or any other nominations from the floor.
I'd like to nominate Holly for the representative for staff.
Is that Sharon?
Yes, thank you, Jill. This is Sharon.
Okay. Who made the second?
This is Commissioner Stan. I'd like to make the second.
Okay. Thank you, Stan. Any other discussion on this item?
Are we going to do the alternates or vote on Holly first?
Yeah, how do we do that, Stan? I mean, Andy?
I would say vote on Holly first as the primary, and then you can identify, folks can self-select. We can have as many alternates as we'd like.
Okay. Sounds good. All those in favor of appointing Holly Williams to as our STAC primary representative, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Congratulations, Commissioner.
Yay. Hey,
I'd like to move up to first or second, or stay at second alternate.
Is that Sharon?
Yes.
and I didn't know if Eric Stone with Teller County wanted to be an alternate.
Yeah, actually, I had texted Stan earlier that I would like to serve in some capacity on that committee. So yes, I would.
So Sharon, are you okay with Eric being first alternate, you being second?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, so Eric and then Sharon, third. Anyone else?
Madam
want-
Chair,
Yes,
So
Mr.
Eric
Williams.
is first alternate. I'm second alternate.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Mr. Williams?
I would like to serve as a third alternate.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay. So I'm confused. Wayne, you're now on PPACG?
I am. Andy Pico has gone to the legislature,
Right.
and council yesterday, PPACG.
And
Congratulations.
we will have introductions with all our new board members at the beginning of the following meeting. So that will be very exciting. And so that was just a preview with my fellow council member, Mr. Williams. Any other alternates want to join this group, esteemed group?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Stan. I'm willing to remain as an alternate, but happy to be down towards the bottom somewhere so that others can be on this as well. If I'm on it now, I'll just stay on it, just be lower down on the list.
Great, thank you, Stan. Anyone else?
We can have as many alternates as we want. So there's
Yes, we
no
can.
limit on this. The more the merrier.
I would recommend that there be a staff member as an alternate as well. We do have John Leosatos on there, and Andy Gunning is on there. That kind of formalizes their capacity to go to those meetings, and it is useful for the PPACG staff to be able to go to those when needed.
Thank you, Stan. I couldn't agree more. I'm sure they're both very willing to serve.
Yeah, I was going to say, without John, we wouldn't have known about pigs.
Right?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll have equally exciting information for us today. So, okay, I am going to ask one more time, and then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the slate that we have previously addressed that I won't remember. But
This is Yolanda. I'll remain as an alternate.
great. Thanks, Yolanda.
Okay. Can I just review the slate and make sure we have it understood? So Holly is obviously the primary.
Yes, you're second.
First alternate is Eric. Second alternate is myself. Third alternate is Wayne Williams. Fourth alternate is either going to be Yolanda or Stan. Which order would you prefer that in?
I would be comfortable with Yolanda being the fourth.
Okay, then Yolanda, and then Stan, and then John and Andrew.
Everybody comfortable with that slate? Thank you, Sharon. Please, someone make a motion.
Let me ask, did Andy want to be on that at the bottom as well?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
It was,
He does.
yes, it was John Liazatos and then Andrew Gunning.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Good
missed
question.
that. I would move approval of the slate as outlined.
Thank you.
I would second Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. All those, well, any other further discussion? Great. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays?
There you go.
Okay. Okay, well, that motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for being willing to serve on the stack. And with that, this concludes our annual meeting, and I will gavel. Yes, Andy.
Need to approve our Sunshine Core compliance.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And Jessica M., do you need to say a few words about this? This identifies where we're going to post agendas and so forth.
I don't believe so, unless anyone has any questions relating to our recommended positions and Cora custodian.
Any questions from board members?
I'm trying really quick to find the posting positions. Jessica, can you just review them quickly?
To use the PPACG website as the official posting location. This was proposed at the state legislature 2 years ago.
Okay, we need to have another posting location designated for our former city attorney. You need to have a physical location in case your website goes down. You cannot, it's not advisable to use the website as the only official posting location. And Lisa Hickey might have something to say on that.
I know that we also discussed including the message board that is downstairs, that is at the main entrance now, as a secondary location, if that's something you'd like to change the recommendation, the motion to include the downstairs message board as our.
We just passed ours as a city, and the physical locations were primary, and of course recommended that it always be included as the website as a backup, because if your website goes down, you're out of compliance.
Well, the
Not
message
if you
board
have a
seems like
backup.
Well,
okay, but we don't have a backup on this motion, so we need to.
So
That's what they were adding.
Yeah, so let's add the message board, and so someone can make a motion to include both of those locations.
So moved. This is Dick Elsner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
Second, Hollywood.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Anything I'm forgetting, Andy?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Is there anything else on the agenda that I'm missing, Andy?
No, the one thing that we'll do in a couple of months, as you get closer to the end of your term, is appointment to the Front Range Passenger Rail Commission, just to make sure that there's continuity there. It didn't happen at this meeting necessarily. You're still representing the region on that commission, but we'll add that to maybe the March or April meeting agenda.
And for those who care, I do chair that commission, and we are actively hiring or changing leadership at the at the Rail Commission, and undergoing a whole RFP process that I'm engaged in. So I wanted to stay in that role through my end of my term, and then you guys can figure out how to move forward after that. With your
May I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Of course.
Is it a requirement that our representative be a elected official, or is that something where there's an option for us to choose to have Jill continue in that position?
There's flexibility there. Sorry, Jill.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, no, it's our understanding that we do have flexibility. The board has flexibility as far as who they want to appoint to officially represent us. We just need to figure out how we would firm up communication between the rep and the board, just to keep everybody else apprised. But we'll drill into that further just to make sure. But our understanding doesn't need to be a board member, doesn't need to be an elected official necessarily.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Wayne, for asking that question. I did not set him up for that, for those who are wondering.
No, but if you look, when you go to Stack, you see that Vince has been chair of Stack for years, decades after he ceased being the local elected official, but people continue to send him because of his vast knowledge and his ability to represent the community. So, and I haven't asked Jill whether she's even willing. So, but that's a further discussion will take place later.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everyone. It has been an honor to serve this organization over this last year in such odd circumstances. I love seeing your shiny faces on the Zoom, but I do look forward to the time when we can all hug again and eat donuts. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting and hand the virtual gavel to Stan, and he will begin our next meeting. Thank you, everyone, and happy 2021. We are adjourned.
Great. If there's no objections, I'll go ahead and call to order our monthly meeting. And I have the virtual gavel, no sound, so we are now called to order. We are going to go through an introduction. We're going to do a quorum call to make sure that we have everybody here and we have a quorum. Andy's going to run that. And as we get to new members in that quorum call, I would like to ask those members to introduce themselves. We know everybody here anyway, but let's give the new members an opportunity to say a few words, and I look forward to hearing that. Before we proceed, Andy, I would like to thank the outgoing board, and in particular the chair, Jill Gabler, for your great service to the community as chair of this board. Thank you very much, Councilwoman Gabler, for the great work that you've done and keeping us going, and certainly not in an easy time with coronavirus taking place. Also, I'd like to thank all the other members that have served, Sharon Thompson, Dick Elsner, and Yolanda Avila. Thank you so much. And my welcome to the new board. I'm looking forward to working with you going forward into 2021. This is going to be a great year. We're going to get through coronavirus. We're going to get back into growing our economies again. And I'm really, really hopeful at the end of 2021, we will only be able to see coronavirus in the rearview mirror. But we are going to do great work together this year. And thanks to everybody for your commitment to serving the community. With that in mind, I'd like to hand it over to Andy now for the quorum call and the introductions of our new board members.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, I'm going to lean on Jess B. I know she's got the list of the roster of board members attending, and then I'll introduce our new members as well. We have a new transportation commissioner and 2 new members, a commissioner with Teller County, and then obviously a new city council member, not new, but new to the board again. But Jess, do you want to do the quorum call, please?
Sure thing. All right. So I'm going to go down the list of everybody that I see. If I miss you, just let me know at the end, and we'll make sure you're included here in the minutes, and our roster and everything will be updated as such. So for Colorado Springs, City of Colorado Springs, I see Jill Gabler, Wayne Williams, Yolanda Avila. For Fountain, I have Sharon Thompson. For City of Manitou Springs, I show John Graham. City of Victor, Bruce Davis. El Paso County, I show Stan, Cami, and Holly present. Park County, I can see Dick Elsner. Teller County, Eric Stone. Moving down our list, I see for Town and Monument, Mayor Don Wilson is with us. And for Palmer Lake, we have Glant Havner. And then I show Miss Lisa Hickey here for Colorado Transportation Commission. And then various members of our military here. Is there any members that I missed of the board for different municipalities? Okay, with that, I'll give it back to Andy to go ahead and introduce our new friends here.
Super. Okay, thanks, Jess. And just real briefly, but if the new members want to say a couple of words as well, that would be fine. But we have a new transportation commissioner, as you saw from the announcement last month, Commissioner Lisa Hickey. Thank you so much for joining us. And Commissioner, would you like to say anything?
Well, thank you and Happy New Year. I'm very excited to see the new slate be elected. It's going to be a great year soon. I appreciate you letting me attend your meetings and learn about everything, all the important work you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. And she has hit the ground running already. Lots of stuff going on, and we've had a chance to meet with her quite a few times. So thank you. Appreciate that. New Teller County Commissioner, Commissioner Stone. Welcome, Eric. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. First, congratulations to all who were reelected or elected to continue to represent. So I know I'm excited to have been sworn in yesterday. Looking forward to working with all of you. Also want to say thank you to Andy, Jill, and Norm. You guys got me in the loop quite a few months ago, so this isn't a new introduction for me today, but looking forward to working with you all. And thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. And then finally, I think our last new member today, Councilmember Wayne Williams, obviously not new to PPACG, and thrilled to have him back in the fold. Councilmember Williams, did you want to say a few words?
Thanks. Thanks for having me back. When I joined City Council, all of our slots were full. Now Representative Pico is serving in the legislature, so that created an opening, and I'm delighted to be back with what I think is one of the most productive boards in the work they do and the difference they make in our community. So I look forward to continuing to work with each of you. Thanks.
Super. Thank you so much. And I think that's it as far as new members. Any other new ones on the line that we didn't pick up? I believe that was it. And just very briefly, thank you so much to our outgoing chair, Councilmember Gabler. We got a lot done, as you mentioned, in really unusual times this past year. Incredibly productive with a lot of different things, with COVID relief support through our AAA and transportation needs, and just so many other things. I really appreciate your support and collaboration and accessibility. It's been a tough year, but thank you much.
Thank you, Andy. It was an honor, and I will miss being a part of PPACG very much when I leave. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chair, I hand it back to you, and looking forward to a productive 2021.
Thank you very much, Andy. And I'd just like to make an opportunity for Jill, if you'd like to make a few more comments as the outgoing chair. Perhaps you feel you've done that already, but I think giving you the opportunity is important.
I appreciate that, Stan. And no, I think I'm good. You don't want to see me cry or anything, so let's just keep moving.
Thank you. Well, we'll have to have a conversation over coffee sometime later then, and we'll get there. All right.
I would love that.
I'd also like to, as a new chair, would like to welcome our new members, Commissioner Stone and Council Member Williams. Congratulations for your elections and also for your placement on this board. We look forward to working with you. Also would like to express a special thank you to our new Transportation Commissioner, Lisa Hickey. She's actually already done an enormous amount of work for us on the Transportation Commission, helping us get to some successful motion, and we're going to discuss that in this meeting, but some successful movement forward regarding the intersection on Powers for the Transportation Commission. So I appreciate everybody's comments, and let's go ahead and move forward with the agenda. Item number 2 is the agenda approval, and I'd like to open it up for discussion if there's any recommended changes to the agenda, and if no one has any concerns, then I'll interested in a motion in a second.
Stick Elsner, I move to approve the agenda.
Second, Don Wilson.
Okay, there we have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments? And hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? That passes unanimously. Our agenda is approved, and we'll go ahead and proceed forward. We'll start with public comments, and we've got a couple of folks lined up, but before we get there, do we have any emails from anybody, Jessica, for people that wanted to talk, or was there anything sent in?
Nothing was sent in.
Okay, very good. I would like to actually add, just before we have Kate Hatton come and talk, we know that Norm Steen had made a request to speak. So what I would like to do at this point is give Mr. Steen an opportunity to address this board. And Mr. Steen, are you on? I'm not
I
sure I
am.
saw you, but I think you're there. Excellent.
I am. Good morning.
All right, very good. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So PPACG obviously is very familiar to me, and I have so much respect the work that PPACG does. I'm asked to take just a moment to introduce the board to my new role. Yesterday is my last day in elected office. It was also my first day as Congressman Doug Lamborn's district director. And I would like to post in the chat, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, my contact information. One of the congressman's objectives is to maintain real close contact with elected leadership of the 5th District. And of course, that includes the 3 counties of Pikes Peak Area Council. And I would hope that if once I post my information, your contact information, if you would contact me, I would really appreciate an opportunity to meet with your elected boards, either in work session or in public session, if you prefer, sometime beginning after January 25th. It's a little crazy in DC, and I've been trying to keep up with all the systems here, but I would very much appreciate it. I believe that that's one of the reasons why the congressman brought me on, because his intent to maintain close contact with you all. So I will post my contact information in the chat and open any questions or comments, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please do so. No objection.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll open up the floor if anybody has comments for Mr. Steen. I can see in the chat that there's a lot of congratulations heading your way, Norm. So congratulations.
Awesome.
I'll echo those comments. Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
Just really look forward to the continued chance to work with my good friends all around the district. Pikes Peak Council of Governments was absolute top of my list for the importance, and you get the great work that you guys do. So I'm really excited to continue to work with you all. I'm looking forward to staying in touch and help wherever I can.
Outstanding. So on behalf of the board and myself, I'd like to offer a congratulations. You certainly didn't waste any time. You didn't even have a single day of not being employed. How about that?
No, in fact, I was double dipping for one day. So.
And I look forward to a great relationship we'll have with you, which will be easy to do because you know all of us, and using that as a vehicle for communicating with Congressman Lamborn. We do have issues, particularly in the transportation arena, but there'll be plenty to talk about as we settle into our new roles. And thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us to let us all know the new position that you hold.
Very good. So I'll thank you so much. I'll post it in the chat and I'll let you proceed with your meeting. Thank you so much. And I would appreciate if you'd like to continue to extend invitations. I'll attend where I can, either virtually or in person, hopefully one day. Bring any interest to federal issues or again, help with any issues I can on the federal front.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Steen? All right, hearing none, let's go on to the next item. We have Kate Hatton with Homefront Military Network. And Kate, I believe you're on. If we could get you set up and give you an opportunity to talk about the Homefront Military Network.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwerf, and thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity, and I apologize for not getting to you in 2020. It was not a normal year for anybody, so I'm glad to have the opportunity to present to you today and fill you in on what we've been doing. I've tried to present every year as Homefront Military Network. Actually, initially started as a program under PPACG when it was Peak Military Care Network. Jessica, just what do you want? Am I running the slides, or are you running the slides?
You should have permission to be able to run it yourself.
Okay, and I don't have them loaded.
I can pull them up if that's easier.
Yeah, sorry, thanks.
No problem.
We didn't bad for the communication. Anyway, as those get loaded, just to remind folks that Homefront Military Network is the product of a merger between Peak Military Care Network and the Homefront Cares. We merged in January last year, so we're about a year old under this configuration, but the entities have been around actually since initially 2003. And really our goal is to continue to do what we've always done. And I'm just going to jump ahead a few slides to keep us going. If you go next slide. So, there we go. So that's what we were. And the next slide. And here's what we are. Homefront Military network connects service members, veterans, and families to resources provided by our trusted community partners, and we provide emergency financial assistance. We do that at the individual level. Next slide, please. And then next slide. We'll just jump into the individual services. We help individual service members, veterans, and families, any era, any branch of service, helping any military veteran connection, connecting them to services. We provide one-time emergency financial assistance. That's been a little bit lax this year or in the past year because of COVID. Really, that's statewide. We provide navigation and case coordination, really helping people know what resources are available in the community. We have a lot here, which is good, but it's overwhelming. So making sure people know what resources are available and how to connect wherever they are. And then we walk with them every step of the way to make sure that they get connected to the right services, get the needs met, ideally before they're in crisis. But if they're in a financial crisis or something else, we'll help them manage that and then get them connected. The goal is long-term sustainability and helping them thrive. The education and outreach component, again, as I mentioned, making sure that people know resources are available, making you all know resources are available. And thank you, Councilwoman Thompson, for connecting somebody to us recently, because that's what we do, is we connect the dots and help people connect. And also we work with partner agencies. We've got a broad network of any type of service that a service member, veteran, or family member might need, making sure they understand military and veteran culture, understanding how to connect to community resources, and connect back to the military installations in the VA as well. Next slide. The best ways to connect to us, and this is the good news about sort of our business model, is that we were able to continue, and our team continues to work remotely. So we use our Network of Care website, which has a service directory, community calendar, and a way to connect to our case managers directly through an online form. And then by calling our team at our 577-7417 phone number. Again, the goal is to get people connected. Phone, web-based assistance is the main way right now. Very little walk-in capabilities at this time, again, to keep people safe and to keep our team safe. Next slide. Again, the partner agency network, and on the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit, but really, again, it covers everything from advocacy to benefits assistance. We work with the County Veteran Service Office. We work with Pikes Peak Workforce Center. We work with a lot of nonprofits, behavioral health and healthcare providers. Everything from early care and education to hospice and palliative care is covered in the network. Next slide. And this is just kind of a depiction of all those different agencies that are involved in connecting the dots and providing that expertise. The goal is breadth and depth of this network to make sure people have the resources that meet their needs across the spectrum. Next slide. Just to kind of give you a sense of with the merger, what our collective impact has been since, again, 2003. More than 207,000 service members, veterans, and families have been assisted directly. Our partner network has provided more than 400,000 services just since 2015. And these do not include 2020 numbers. We're still collecting the data on that. And since 2004, we've provided more than $5.5 million in emergency financial assistance to military and veteran families. In the past 6 years, and this really was germinated under Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, trainings to more than 1,700 participants through our partner agencies on military and veteran culture, resources available, key trends and challenges to make sure that our providers have the tools in their toolbox to meet needs. Next slide, please. Some of our individual impact, and this is again some 2019 and preliminary 2020 numbers. The goal is to make sure that we get people connected to the right services the first time, and 98% said the referrals met their needs in 2019. That's down a little bit in 2020. The big issue of that is really related to the pandemic and not enough resources available, at least initially, to meet some of those needs. There have been a lot of resources, and the county's been a super big help to help connect people to services and provide financial assistance, but we haven't been able to help everybody. And then 85% who's long-term we're trying to track. So after 6 months, 85% of those who needed financial assistance in 2019 and the beginning of 2020, we're still, like obviously 6 months behind those assistance needs, said that, they've been able to maintain stable finances. And that's really important. The goal is to help people long-term, not just with that immediate need. And remain stably housed. And 98+% said that they've had lower stress levels because of the assistance we've been able to provide. So again, those factors tie into healthcare, behavioral health, wellness, all those factors. Next slide, please. In 2019, again, the partner agency trainings, 97% of the partner participants said the collaboration improved. that it increased their 95% said increased their awareness of military and veteran needs, and 96% said that the trainings helped them meet the needs of those that they serve. We haven't gotten our 2020 data analysis yet, but really the goal is to make sure that we're providing good information and helping not just those we assist, but helping other agencies who assist help meet needs too. Next slide. I'm almost done, I promise. And just in 2020 so far, what we do know is that we've assisted more than 3,000 clients this year. That's more than, I think, double the amount of calls that we've received has been more than double than both agencies received in 2019. I think the pandemic's a piece of that, and then just kind of being able to, with some of that streamlined and more efficiencies, be able to serve more. It actually, those numbers were preliminary. I know we provided more than $340,000 in financial assistance this past year. And since March, when we started tracking, 60% of the calls for assistance have been people that had a hardship related to COVID. So I know everybody's seeing that. Those are just kind of some of the numbers that we're seeing as well too. And again, know that we're collectively trying to meet the needs of our community. Next slide. That's just a couple of samples from our partners and some of those we've assisted of the difference we're hoping, again, not just at the individual level, but at the community level as well, trying to make a big difference and be a force multiplier for the region. I think that's it. And one more slide. I think it's just how to connect and the different ways to connect. So we have all those different ways through social media and again, through those online resources. So I'll stop there, take a breath and see if people have questions. Again, I just appreciate where Homefront Military Network started under PPACG and where we've come. And I just want to make sure you are all aware of this resource in our community to help you, help your organizations, and help those you serve, get the resources they need.
Great. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate the presentation. Are there any questions for Kate? And hearing none, I do have a question for you. Obviously, as you know, PPACG is 3 counties, El Paso, Teller, and Park. So the question that I have for you, do you have a jurisdiction within which you work, or are you open to phone calls from anywhere or support from any, veteran from anywhere? So if you have a jurisdiction or if you don't, could you explain that?
Sure. I would say that the partner network mostly covers the Pikes Peak region. It does reach out in Denver and Pueblo, but we really are statewide and growing, and that impact more. Financial assistance is absolutely statewide. Depends on the funding source. We have lots of different funding sources, but we take calls not just from in Colorado, but from people moving here who are stationed in South Korea, from calls from wherever, and we do our best to connect them. So really, don't let where you live stop you. We'll do our best to help connect.
Great. So that I appreciate that. That says to me, whatever county that PPACG has a relationship with, anybody from those counties, all 3 of our counties, anybody can call, which is outstanding.
Absolutely. We want to make sure we have that. And we work with the county veteran service officers as well, too, to make sure they're connected. But we want to do that outreach so people know. Okay, great. And Kate, I'd like just to express my appreciation to your service. You've been at this for a while, and I've even been to a few of your board meetings, as you're well aware. And you guys really have a great board with an enormous heart to try to service the community, to help our veterans and veteran families. And so thanks for that. It's organizations like yours and so many more that we have in our community that really makes our community and our region a great place to live. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the consent items. This is item number 4. And as you all know, we will vote on these as a block. And there are 3 items in there: approval of the minutes from the December 9th meeting, the summary of financials, and then the membership appointments for the CAC. I'll open up the floor for any comments or questions or concerns about any of these items. Okay, hearing none, entertain a motion.
Move acceptance of the consent calendar. This is John Graham, Manitou.
Excellent. There's a motion. Do we have a second?
Dick Elsner, Park County. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions or concerns? And hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? And hearing none, that passes unanimously. Let's go to item 5, the action items. And our first item, these obviously, as you all know, will be voted on. The first item is 5A, 2021 Long Range Transportation Plan Planning Cycle. And so PPACG team, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Northrup or John Leo Sados will be taking this. So either one of you, if you're ready, take it away.
Thanks, Sandy. Good morning, everyone. Mark Northrup, Senior Transportation Planner at PPACG. Bear with me a minute here. Jessica, can I get the capability to share my screen?
Go ahead and give it a try for me now. There it is.
Great, thank you. So today I want to provide you with an overview of staff proposals for the upcoming transportation planning cycle, including the development of the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan. I first want to thank those board members who were able to attend the retreat Transportation and Environment staff held last October, where we shared our ideas for the next cycle. We know you have a lot going on, so we appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and for providing feedback. The information I'm providing today is available in your packet under agenda item 5A. So I'll be focusing on 3 areas today. First, I'll be going over the federal requirements. This will be followed by staff recommendations. And finally, I'll be providing the proposed schedules for the next planning cycle and 2050 RTP. So here are the planning products and activities that transportation planning and environment staff are required to do or will be required to conduct during the next planning cycle if circumstances change. The first gray bullet refers to the public engagement documents that need to be updated. Staff will need to update the Title VI Environmental Justice Plan, the Limited English Proficiency Plan or LEP plan, and the Public Participation Plan or PPP. Although these plans were adopted in February 2019, they were developed with the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan in mind, so only minor updates will be conducted. The updates made to these plans will ensure they reflect current planning requirements. The second gray bullet refers to potential air quality requirements during the next planning cycle. PPACG has responsibilities to ensure its transportation plans and programs support state and federal air quality goals and meet air quality standards. The Pikes Peak region is currently in compliance for the critical pollutants within the Clean Air Act and is therefore not required to show conformity. However, as many of you know, there is concern about the pollutant ozone. In the event the region does break a critical pollutant standard like ozone, PPACG staff would be required to conduct conformity determinations and demonstrate that the Pikes Peak region is meeting federal requirements before transportation plans and programs are adopted. I also want to mention that there could be state air quality requirements in the future related to greenhouse gas and Colorado's Greenhouse Gas Pollution Reduction Roadmap. The third gray bullet refers to a congestion management process update. The congestion management process, a requirement in metropolitan areas with a population exceeding 200,000, is a systematic and regionally accepted approach for managing congestion. It provides accurate and updated information on system performance and assesses alternative strategies for congestion management. During the next planning cycle, corridor classifications will be examined as part of the congestion management process. PPACG staff and committee members might analyze data to determine roadway classifications and/or roadway congestion, determine if updates are needed to the congestion management process toolbox, and potentially use corridors as part of the scoring criteria for the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program. The fourth and final gray bullet refers to an update of the Transit Plan and Coordinated Plan, or Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Mountain Metro and PPACG staff will be doing an update to both the Transit Plan and Coordinated Plan during the next planning cycle. Both plans will be incorporated into the 2050 RTP. Here are the planning products and activities that staff are recommending for the next planning cycle. The first gray bullet refers to PPACG's public engagement and general plan approach during the next planning cycle. Staff is recommending environmental justice, or EJ, be integrated into the plan development process in a more meaningful way to make good use of staff time and ensure that federal requirements are met. It's been found that the FHWA and FDA are paying more attention to EJ and limit English proficiency and expect greater effort and more detailed plans and tracking. The second gray bullet refers to PPACG's recommended forecast approach for the 2050 RTP. The goal for the next regional forecast is to create a composite of future growth based primarily on member government's own development plans and projections. This forecast can be shared alongside other plans, providing for a more comprehensive picture of growth in the region. PPACG's Regional Planning Forum will be used to compare any discrepancies between plans and discuss preferred alternatives. The third grade bullet refers to the development of an active transportation plan. Staff is recommending an active transportation plan, or ATP, update during the next planning cycle. ATPs support things like transportation choices, health, community feeling, special events, economic development and tourism, a sense of place and safety. There currently is an ATP, the Regional Non-Motorized Transportation System Plan, that was developed by PPACG, but it was done in 2015, so an update is due. Active transportation plans are typically updated every 1 to 2 planning cycles. Also, rapid growth of the region has changed the transportation landscape, with more people needing to get around by foot and bicycle. Bicycle and pedestrian deaths have been increasing in the last few years, especially pedestrian, before and since COVID-19. And COVID-19 has changed the role of bicycle and pedestrian transportation, as well as micromobility. The fourth and final grade bullet refers to the development of a freight study during the next cycle. There currently is no freight plan produced by PPACG, and most medium to large MPOs have a freight plan. A freight study could help lay the foundation for a plan or assess the regional freight system and resolve conflicts and safety issues involving freight. Also, freight volumes are rapidly increasing and freight type and mode are changing, such as truck size, truck versus train, as well as delivery modes and technologies. I'm now going to go over the proposed schedules for the 2020-2024 transportation planning cycle and the 2050 long-range transportation plan. I first want to provide everyone with an overview of the next planning cycle schedule and how it relates to the development of the 2050 RTP. I have developed this table to show the relationship. The first main component of the table, under the seasons row, are plan elements, studies, and updates. In 2021, we will be conducting the congestion management process update, as well as a tri-county study and freight study. Over the course of a year, between the spring of 22 and spring of 23, we're looking at developing the active transportation plan and potentially developing both transit-related plans. The development of the transit plan will ultimately be determined by MMT's schedule, since they are the ones leading the effort. The second component of the table, under plan elements, studies, and updates, is public engagement plans. In the spring and summer of 22, we'll be making the minor updates to the Title VI plan, the Limit English Proficiency Plan, or LAP plan, and the Public Participation Plan, or PPP. The third component of the table, under public engagement plans, is the 2050 LRTP. The 2050 LRTP will be a two-year process. It will kick off with pre-plan efforts in the summer and fall of 22. This will be followed by a development plan beginning in the winter of 22, extending into the end of 24, and concluding in early 25 with the plan's adoption. In the next slide, I'll be going over the 2050 RTP schedule in greater detail. Using a table, I've broken up the plan development process into 6 phases. The first phase of the plan's development, on the far left, is called the pre-plan kickoff phase. This phase will occur in the summer and fall of 22. Public engagement efforts will be the focus. There will be an open house or a public meeting held in the beginning of this phase. The plan document itself will begin to get laid out, and the model and GIS team will begin their pre-plan efforts. Also, in terms of public engagement, staff will identify public engagement contacts, particularly related to environmental justice, put together contact lists, and do some preliminary environmental justice analysis. The next phase is called phase 1. Phase 1 will begin in the winter of 2022 and conclude in the spring of 23. During this phase, the plan's vision, goals, and objectives will be the focus, along with an inventory of current conditions and identification of needs. The financial plan will begin, along with further development of the forecast and other GIS-related efforts. Public outreach will be directed towards the focus areas I talked about for phase 1. Phase 1 is then followed by phase 2. Phase 2 will occur in the summer and fall of 23. Regional strategies and implementation priorities, performance measures, and project scoring criteria will be the focus. Staff will continue to develop the financial plan, as well as forecasts and GIS efforts. Public outreach will be directed towards the focus areas I talked about for phase 2. Phase 2 is followed by phase 3. Phase 3 will begin in the winter of 23 and conclude in the summer of 24. During this phase, the project list will be developed and finalized. the financial plan will be completed. The mobility elements I referred to earlier, such as the active transportation plan, will be incorporated into the RTP, and the forecast and JS efforts will be completed. Staff will also evaluate projects developed during this phase and examine their potential environmental justice impacts. Phase 3 is followed by Phase 4. Phase 4 will occur in the summer and fall of 24. During this phase, the focus will be on the draft plan. The chapters of the RTP will be reviewed and a draft plan will be completed. This phase will conclude with a 30-day public review period and a public hearing. The final phase of the plan's development is called the plan wrap-up phase. This phase will begin in the winter of 2024 and conclude in early 25. During this phase, the plan will go through its final review. You'll have the opportunity to view any public comments received, and the plan is scheduled for adoption in January of 25. One other thing I want to mention concerning the development of the 2050 RTP is the formation of an advisory committee. This committee, recommended by PPACG staff, would be responsible for helping to guide the plan development process, including public participation. The committee would be comprised of interested parties in the state and region, including public agencies, local jurisdictions, and stakeholder groups. It would be called the Regional Transportation Plan Advisory Committee, or RATPAC for short. So that concludes my presentation on the proposals for the upcoming planning cycle. I've listed my contact information in case you have any follow-up questions or comments for me. And with that, does anyone have any comments or questions for me or staff?
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate your presentation. And does anybody have any questions or comments? I have a couple, but I'll reserve those and let anybody else speak if they have a question first. And so hearing none, I think it's great to have a plan like this. There's a lot of moving elements in here. So it might be, if we go forward with voting to approve this, it might be important, Andy, that we have capacity to kind of do modifications to this as we're moving through this year, because I'm not sure that we're going to be in a place today to understand all of the nuances about what all that might mean. So, we're probably going to need that flexibility. I assume you have no objection to that.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And we wanted to bring this to the full board just to get your preliminary kind of overarching blessing that this is the right direction to take. So there's a lot of sub-studies and sub-plans that we need to work on, like the Tri-County study and the freight study and things like that that Mark alluded to. So this gives us our general marching orders, but absolutely, we'll need to figure out the right time frame to do regular check-ins with the board. Maybe that's quarterly, to let you know what kind of progress we're making. And if we need to make some adjustments and move in slightly different directions, yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, great. And then there was a chart in there and it was showing public engagement. It didn't show public engagement until 2022, but then the following chart did show public engagement this year. So I think the public engagement up front and early is always valuable. I think it helps us to guide a pathway. And I don't think I have an objection to it. I just reacted to the first chart initially and then saw that we have public engagement in 2021. So I think I'm good with that. And then I do have another question, and it's this term of, this whole document refers to like transportation plans, transportation management, and so forth. But then when we get to environmental, which I think is important to include, we use the term environmental justice. Is there any interest in changing that term? I call it environmental planning or environmental management as opposed to environmental justice. I'm not sure I understand why the word environmental justice would be used in this.
So environmental justice is actually a federal, it's actually a formal name, actually. It's not just a name that we made up. It's actually a name that's where there's actually federal regulations saying you need to follow certain things related, and they refer to it as being environmental justice. So Jason O'Brien, who's one of our planners, is kind of the lead on that. So, if you'd like any follow-up information, I can certainly have him touch base with you and provide you with more information on that.
Okay, well, I think I can accept that. If it's got a connection to federal statute or something, that's okay. To be fair, I still don't get the term. This is all about planning. This is all about management, trying to address this. And so I don't know why environmental gets a special word, but it's okay, I guess, especially if the federal statutes call it out that way. So are there any other questions or comments with regards to this presentation? Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dick Elsner, Park County. I noticed, of course, the Tri-County, which is appreciated because I'm assuming that includes Park County. When you get into the freight studies, are you looking at the 3 counties on that too? 285 has become a major freight route, and I'd like to make sure that it's included in any studies that you would do.
So on the MPO planning sort of gives us the funds for the area that is the urbanized area through Colorado Springs, and then sort of has a saguaro cactus arm up that captures Woodland Park. That being said, we do have the flexibility to talk about the travel shed. So yes, Commissioner, we will be reaching out into Park County, Teller County, as well as even sort of what freight's coming in from Douglas and Pueblo County. So we can do that. We just don't have the flexibility by the rules that the feds have put on us to do a super deep dive. But what you're talking about, yes, definitely can be addressed within this study. We just have to be careful that from the feds perspective, we're not taking money that's intended for a certain area and doing a lot of effort outside of that area. But what you're talking about is certainly part of what we would need to do to have it be an effective study. So yes.
Yeah, well, and that was my comment was going to be that when you start getting into that, if there would be additional funding that, you know, maybe Park County could go after some grants or come up with additional funding to make sure we're included in the study, knowing that, you know, it's your transportation area and it's your taxpayers that are paying for a lot of it. But, you know, we'd like to be included in more, and maybe there's a way we can work something out.
Yes, we can definitely do that. We can expand the scope of the study. If again, not putting as much any financial burden on you that we don't need to, but to the extent that the feds let us have our scope of work, we will share that with you. And if there are things outside the federally approved scope of work, there is nothing that says we can't add that, where you get the efficiency of combining them together, so you can get what you need at a little better price. So we can definitely do that. Yes, sir.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And just real quickly, Commissioner Vanderwerf, I'm not sure it matters much, but the environmental justice, that's actually a presidential order. So the presidential order on environmental justice, I believe there was 2 that have been signed that have sort of worked themselves into that. But environmental justice is not actually focused on the environment as we would talk about it, where it's ozone and those sorts of things. But environmental justice as in more civil rights sorts of things, and protecting and making sure we're doing things that are protecting certain classes of citizens and making sure that their civil rights are maintained. Environmental justice goes hand in hand with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of, I believe, 1964. I might have the date wrong, but it's in that vein, not necessarily environment like air quality and water quality, those sorts of things. So I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but I don't want later on for you to come back and say, wait a minute, that's not what you guys told me. So I want to make sure we get you all the information up front, sir.
Thank you, John. Actually, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you actually clarified that, because I wasn't picking up on that. So I appreciate that clarification. When I saw the word environmental, yeah, I can see that it has a different meaning, but I was really thinking things like air pollution and water quality and things like that. Yeah.
Commissioner Vanderwerf, Lisa Tomei has something in the chat. She wanted to comment on that too.
Oh, yes, please. Go ahead, Lisa.
Commissioner Stan, thank you very much. I think actually his last comments were very helpful, and he's doing a great job of doing that. It does link the 2 concepts in terms of the Civil Rights Act and how environmental issues affect areas which are disadvantaged. It's often used in that context, and therefore the civil rights issues are implicated. So it is kind of a melding of the 2 concepts in federal law.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner, for also the additional clarification. And if I might, I'd like to go back to Dick's comment with regard to 285. I find that to kind of be an interesting, point. If there's some studies that maybe already exist from CDOT or from the state or maybe from somewhere else, maybe sometime during this year, we could get that on our agenda and have all of us maybe get a better understanding about what kind of freight issues might exist on that highway in Park County. I think that'd be worthwhile.
Yes, Commissioner, we can certainly do that. And again, I think the first part of the freight plan is sort of gathering all of the existing documents that exist. The freight study. See, I fell into that trap. And for those of you who are wondering, there is a difference between a freight study and a freight plan. A freight plan is a lot more in depth. It takes a lot more time and money. And quite frankly, looking at the budget, we didn't have enough money, we felt, to do that. So instead of doing the full-fledged freight plan, we're starting off this year in 21 with the goal of having a freight study, which was be a little smaller effort, which again is going to identify those things and weave them together. So as we move forward, we will reach out to our state partners as well as any other sponsors of existing plans. And we will, as we gather that information for the study, we will bring that to the board as an update before we jump in with both feet. I think that would also give us the opportunity, as Commissioner Elsner has said, to sort of let everybody know what's going to happen and when, so that way if anyone wants to adjust the scope, whether or not they have to throw additional funding in to do that or not, but that gives us the opportunity to have that discussion.
Yes, thank you, John. I think it'd just be great for our board to have an appreciation for what challenges exist on that highway, that Dick has mentioned here. So thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments with regard to this item 5A? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. And actually, before we do the motion, is just to make sure it's clear what we'll be voting on, Andy, maybe you could just let us know. Is it to accept this plan or approve it, or what would be the best phraseology for this?
Bear with me as I try to find the language. I think, our proposed motion was approval of the staff recommendations for the 2020 to 2024 transportation planning cycle and the long range transportation plan. So we made a couple of recommendations in here as far as studies and other things that would be included with this update cycle, including the freight study and a couple others. So it's basically approving kind of the overall scope of the long range plan update.
Outstanding, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion at this point.
I move to approve it. This is Dick Elsner.
Second, John Graham.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there any additional comments, questions, or concerns?
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
If we adopt this, can we go back and make changes to it?
If I'm, Mr. Chair, yes. And again, as the board, you have the overall authority of how we move forward with the planning cycle. The idea behind us bringing this to you is we didn't want to spend 6 months of time, money, and effort putting together, and I'll just use the freight study as an example of a freight study and bringing it to you and saying, hey, here's the scope of work for a freight study. We're sure looking forward to getting this done. And then have you all look at us like we have a third eye, like this episode of The Simpsons fish. And you say, why are you doing that? We didn't want you to do that. Why are you guys wasting our time and money? So this is just us making sure that we're on the right track. But again, you all have the ultimate authority to sort of switch, especially as we bring you more information. Because if we bring you some information, for example, on the freight study, you might say, this was really great stuff. We'd like to see what we can do about moving the money around. And now we want you to go and do a freight plan. So you always have the ability to make changes and do things. That being said, we didn't want to just run off headlong and start doing stuff without any input from you and your approval to say, yeah, this is the course as it is of today, get started on it. So definitely have opportunity to make changes.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. Yeah, I don't want to vote on it and then we come back and say, well, we voted on this, now you can't change it. So I'm glad to know it's a flexible document. Thank you.
Yep, we're not locking you in for the next 5 years. In fact, next month you could come back and tell me you want to have me do something different. That's up to the prerogative of the board. And again, the board makeup changes over time, right? We have 2 new members today. So it's just a matter of making sure that we're headed in the right direction and we're following the general consensus of how you want us to handle this process.
I appreciate Sharon's comments, and it speaks a little bit to my comment earlier about having the ability to make changes, because there's a lot in here, which is good. But, you know, as we go forward and we dig more into elements of this, we might have an interest in, you know, not necessarily stopping and starting over, but, you know, making some course changes a little bit as we go through. So, all right, thank you. Any other questions or concerns or comments?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Williams. Just if you could send out the PowerPoint, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? And hearing none, that passes unanimously. Let's move on to 5B, the federal transportation stimulus funding.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'm going to do my best with this, but quite frankly, I will let you all know up front, I got 20 pounds of confusing that I got to stuff in a 5-pound bag. So I'm going to do my best to sort of try to lay this out in a logical order. But if I miss something, please feel free to ask questions. But I would like to sort of say that as far as a format go, I'll sort of give you my sort of take on what it is and what the options are. Then, if with your permission, Mr. Chair, I'd like to give Brandy Williams and Jennifer Irvin and any other members of the TAC who are on the call to sort of have the opportunity to sort of chime in with anything I may have missed or their own individual take on why they did something or something else. And then I'd like to sort of give the opportunity to CDOT, starting with Herman and Rich, make sure that I didn't misspeak for CDOT in any way during my comments. And then finally, Commissioner Hickey would like to say anything about where the Transportation Commission is on this, because they did have a short discussion on the overall relief package concept at their last meeting. So with that, let me start with reiterating a little bit of what Mark had said. Is the COG is the 3-county area, and within the middle of the COG is the NPO that has sort of that cactus arm that moves up and catches a woodland park. The other thing that you need to know that is important is the NPO area receives funding from the feds and is also its own transportation planning region, or TPR. And so therefore, there's a pot of money from the feds that is for the NPO only. Now, the next thing I need to tell you, that hopefully this all makes sense, is there's a pot of money for CDOT Region 2. And that CDOT Region 2 is basically 14 counties in southeastern Colorado. And within that, there are several different TPRs. The 2 TPRs we care about is TPR number 1, which is Pikes Peak, and TPR 14, which is Central Front Range. Of the pot of money that comes in for CDOT, about 40% is spent within the Pikes Peak region, or TPR 1, and about 15% is spent within the Central Front Range, or a region. And that's important as background that we'll get to in a bit, because it's important to note, and I'll just say this now as a straight statement that I'll reiterate again later, is as we're moving forward with all this and deciding what to do and how to do it, CDOT is committed to these percentages on the long term, because we always talk about getting our fair share. Well, that works both ways, which means that, yes, we're going to get our fair share over time. Sometimes we might, at that 40% that I'm talking about, it might dip down to 30 or 35, but then later on, it'll maybe spike up to 45 or 50, just so that overall, over the long term, we get back to that equity. But the same is true for those other jurisdictions. So from the CDOT perspective, no matter what I'm talking about, always remember CDOT's not giving us extra money. We're going to get our 40% before and after. It's just sort of the timing of when we get our 40%. So by doing this exercise and doing the supporting the project of Powers and Research, we do not gain any extra money outside of the formula. CDOT is committed to stay true to that. And for those of you who are also members of the Central Front Range TPR, I think you appreciate the fact that they're holding the line and not doing anything. And for those of us in TPR number 1, I think we also appreciate that because I think if we found out that CDOT was giving more money outside of the formula to somebody else, we would have an issue with that. So I understand there need to be neutral in that. So that I needed to tell you. So now we're going to move forward to a few months ago, COVID-19 hits, and we get the word from CDOT that we have to delay Powers and Research. And we kind of sit down with them and we say, yep, we understand that. And there was this discussion about add backs, where if the economic downturn isn't quite as bad, I think they could say that they said they could maybe add back like $59 million statewide. And here's what our share is within Region 2. And you could get a small project. And if we get another sort of bill, I think it was 50 million, the add back would have been this. And the first line of questioning that we had as PPACG staff was, well, instead of getting 2 or 3 smaller projects, is there any way we can sort of bundle this all up and get Powers and Research back on track? Because we heard from all of you as commissioners or board members rather, that you were all very disappointed, or a majority of you were very disappointed that that project got delayed. So that was the first thing we tried to do. CDOT said, no, sorry, we just can't do that. There's not enough money total, but we hear what you're saying about Powers and Research and understand that it's your number 1 priority. So now flash forward to, I think, December 21st or something. Congress passes the Relief Act, and in it is $10 billion to be spent nationwide for transportation. I get an email from the National Association of Regional Councils, which is basically a organization of folks like me that come together. So we get this, we get notice of it. Apparently it hadn't been on the radar screen or part of the bill before that. It kind of got thrown in at the last minute. But as it was in there. Now, even before President Trump signed the bill, I get this and I send out an email to all of the jurisdictions saying, hey, heads up, there's money that could be coming our way if it's in the bill. And going back to my experience from 2009, when we did ARA, American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, I think I got that right. Basically, the feds had said, hey, here's some money. You have to spend it within, you have to identify where you're going to spend it within like 30 days, and you have to get the dirt flying within 90 days. I mean, it was obscene, all of the sort of rules that we had on it. And so, quite frankly, I will be honest with you all, I panicked. I said, hey guys, start thinking about what shovel-ready projects you have, because if this is anything like 2009, this is going to go very quickly. And if we're not prepared, we're going to lose out. I also put in there saying, hey, if we don't have these projects that are ready to go, start thinking about how you would feel if we could have this money go onto a CDOT project. I didn't name a particular project because it will be important if they've got something shovel ready and we as smaller as regional jurisdictions don't, that would be an option to move forward. So flash forward a couple of days, CDOT comes back and says, hey, so we think we could swing it to do Powers and Research. We say, well, we can't get our board together fast enough to talk about giving the money over to you guys, but we can have a TAC meeting and you guys can make your pitch there. Fast forward another day, I get an actual copy of the bill and I read through it and find out that all of the things that I was afraid of were not actually in the bill. We do have a little more time to spend the money. The projects don't need to be shovel ready. They don't need to have dirt flying. You could do all sorts of things. In addition, it provided for some sort of relief payment for maintenance, operations, and salaries. So I send out the email to all the jurisdictions so that everybody's on the same page. We have our TAC meeting. CDOT makes the pitch and says, hey, this is what I think we'd like to do. And then the TAC meeting, basically they say, look, we don't like giving up this super duper money. It's a bad taste in our mouths, but that being said, if we're able to do powers and research a season earlier or a year earlier, that's a good thing with what we need to do. Additionally, I think it's good to point out that we also wanted to make sure we have a focus on delivering the older projects, because in the region we have a backlog of projects that have a obligation deadline of June of 21. So this way we also could sort of keep focused on that. Flash forward after that meeting, I get a lot of phone calls from folks saying, yeah, it would have been nice if we could have done X or we could have done Y. I think there's 9 different jurisdictions within the NPO. I didn't get quite 9 phone calls, but I got quite a few with a lot of different sort of, could we take the 8.5 and just spend it within the region? And the answer is yes, of course you can. But again, that doesn't do anything for your old money problem. So I think I related it to Brussels sprouts at one time. When you got a refrigerator full of Brussels sprouts, it's sometimes it's not helpful to get even more, right? So you got to make sure you've got the thing in there. Moving forward, then the question was, is there any way we can sort of work this out? So I go back to CDOT and I say, hey guys, a deal's a deal. I think we're good. This is what we'll take to the board. But I think a lot of jurisdictions would feel better if we could figure out a way for them to have some more flexibility with the money. And the genius financial minds at CDOT came back and said, well, look, here's what we can do. You guys take $8.5 million of your older projects, and $7 million of that will go to powers and research. And then we'll take 1.5 million basically from that second pool. Remember that second pool I told you about, that we never get more than our 40%, and we'll just advance you the money. So again, they're not giving us extra, they're just advancing that to make that 8.5 whole. Then we've got 8.5 million of older projects that no longer have funding. So we have 2 options. We can either put all of the stimulus money or relief money on that, and then those projects become match free. But the issue with that is only the jurisdictions that have projects get benefit from that. And I don't want to speak for the TAC, and I think Brandy Williams will have the ability to come back and speak to this better. But I think that everyone was sort of like, that doesn't seem right. Everyone should get some sort of benefit from this. So let's go ahead and have the jurisdictions have the older projects that now get new money, which means their deadlines are extended and they're no longer at risk of having the money disappear. And then that leaves 1.4 million, because the old jurisdictions are paying their match just like they were before. That leaves 1.4 million available for relief payments. And again, I can't speak for the TAC because they haven't had a vote on this yet, but I think that's the approach that they want to take. Is then what would happen is you guys approve this resolution today. We'll have a special TAC meeting, I believe, tomorrow, where they'll identify the 8.5 million in projects. Because the benefit of the relief dollars aren't tied to that, we'll just pick the $8.5 million worth of project that has the schedules that are in the worst shape or have an issue with getting funded. And then at a later date, we can have a discussion about how that 1.4 million gets divvied up amongst the NPO jurisdictions. And so that's where we're at now. So what we're asking you to do today is approve that resolution saying that, yes, we're going to provide the funds, 7 million coming from older PPACG STP dollars, and 1.4 million coming from basically our share of what we would get from Region 2. So that 8.5 happens, Powers and Research can move forward. We can get people back to work during an economic downturn. So that's a lot of jobs associated with a $44 million project that gets to happen now versus a year from now. And then we also get to make sure that we don't have any projects go away because they were associated with older funding. Those timelines are there. So that would be the exercise at that point. At a later date, we'll come back and we'll figure out how it gets divvied up amongst the NPOs. So with that, I'm sure I forgot a lot of stuff, but I'm sure I've already rambled on for 20 minutes and I'm sure I've lost a lot of you already. So at this point, I just want to make sure that that's sort of the main thing. As a recap, why is this a good deal? You advance Powers and Research by a year, which reduces the risk that for some reason, the SB 267 monies don't come forward. That project's already done and underway, and CDOT assumes the schedule risk. Again, they're not really assuming the budget risk because again, anything that gets spent in this region counts towards our 40%. But it's important to note that they assume the budget risk in that if there does something that's come up, they will sort of advance the money to make sure the project happens. So we get that. We also get some certainty that the monies that are older and are in jeopardy of going away get spent, so it helps with that. So that's sort of where we're at. And so again, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to make sure that we give some time for Brandy Williams, the chair, whose leadership has been very valuable during all of this, kind of shepherding everyone through the TAC, as well as I think Jennifer Irvin and Brian Vitulli are also on the call, and anybody else from the TAC, give them an opportunity to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I'm sure that I did.
Yes, thank you, John. Go ahead and please proceed and let those folks speak briefly.
So Brandy, anyone?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you.
I can't lie, that's the position that I always wanted, so I definitely envy you. Yes, I'm Brandy Williams. I'm chair of the TAC, and as John has stated, this has been a lot of work. Sorry if I missed an earlier prompting. I was actually talking about this subject on another phone call, so my apologies. The biggest part that I want to make sure as we present this to the board is that there aren't any questions. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a few different colors of money. There's been a lot of options on the table. So I just want to make sure there's no questions, and I'm sure we'll have time for that. I appreciate the region's willingness to work on this. After hours, a lot of hours, as John has said, we've done our best to really wrap our heads around this. I think our goal today is just to reaffirm with CDOT that we are comfortable with what has been proposed. And as John said, we still have future meetings to really have conversations about what we're going to do with that 8.5 million that CDOT has graciously swapped so that we can have these further conversations. So just thanks to everybody. Feel free to ask any and all questions. And we look forward to wrapping this up, hopefully in the next few months. Thanks, guys.
Anyone else from the TAC, or should we move on to CDOT? Okay, I think that would be enough time to unmute. So, so we've got something from Jennifer. Well said, Brandy. Herman Stockinger or Rich, did I say anything that was incorrect from CDOT's point of view, or was that a long but necessary overview of what's taken place?
No, I think you go ahead, Rich. All right. So I think you summarized it pretty well, John, from our perspective.
I just wanted to mention one thing. You know, we talked about the amounts of money, and of course, it doesn't add up to the $43.5 million, the interchange. So, you know, kind of the plan on CDOT side is we're asking our Transportation Commission for a loan from their program reserve to cover the remaining. And we would pay that back with Senate Bill 267 Year 3 funds that, you know, will hopefully become available later this year. You know, in the event that, you know, those funds don't become available, the commission's essentially given us the money at that point in time, and we may have to look for a future opportunity to pay it back. But, you know, this project will be fully underway and it will not be in jeopardy at all. And kind of the plan from the region side is if the board moves forward with approving this plan, you know, our hope is to have the project under construction in April. So actually after advertisement in April, you know, and under construction later this summer, you know, probably May to June timeframe. So.
Yeah, and Rich said it well, John said it well. I'm just going to say hello to everyone. It's good to see everybody, and really compliments to the PPACG staff. This is a pretty complicated topic, and Andy and John have worked really closely with us to find something that works both for CDOT and PPACG to get that #1 priority funded. Appreciate the work of the TAC with a couple of special meetings. So we're ready to move on the project, and Rich and I are here to answer any questions you might have.
And if you are interested, there is a 4-minute video featuring Legos explaining the whole process, but I felt it was best not to show that at this time. Commissioner Hickey, from the Transportation Commission perspective, did you need or want to have the opportunity to say anything in addition?
I think you've all said it well. It's too complicated to touch on many details. The commission looks like they're glad to support this. There were questions raised, but overall, there's a lot of support for the stimulus impact that these projects will make. So I'm pleased to support it also.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chair, that for as confusing as it was and as rambling as it was, is my presentation. I'm happy to try to answer any questions or lean on again Brandy and Jennifer and Herman and Richard to answer anything that the board might have questions about.
Yes, thank you, John. And I don't know that I'm going to do a great job of being a very brief summary of what you just presented, but obviously, you know, I think we started here with some stimulus money that came down from the feds. It became an opportunity. We have, in so many cases, found ourselves in a place where we never have enough money for one of our big projects, so we've funded the small ones. And that has caused us to frequently never get to the bigger ones, which really can produce an enormous amount of value for our community. That interchange on Powers, thousands of people get delayed going through that interchange every day. It's a place that really does need to be resolved. And of course, that is why it's our top priority. So when the funds came down, you all started off with an initial plan. And then I appreciate the TAC having a very deliberative, detailed conversation about that, because, and they came up with this plan that if we move money around through some of these funding lines, we actually enhance flexibility to use the overall funds base for other projects, particularly in rural areas of our 3 counties. And as a result of moving those funds around, we end up in a place where we can still do this interchange project, this big project, but we now have funds available that deal with easier approaches on not having to have matching dollars and so forth that can further benefit our rural communities. So I think the TAC did us a real service at finding a process, a methodology, and a way to enhance the flexibility of what we're doing here going forward. That'll be my quick summary. It doesn't actually talk to dollar A moving to line B, but I think that's what we started with and where we're going to end up with. And John, you had your hand raised. Just a very brief comment if you have something else to add.
Yes, very brief, because I see Commissioner Bremer wants to get to vote before she leaves. Just when you mentioned the rural communities, again, this is more of the urban NPO area. I think there is some benefit, but that is more of a secondary or tertiary benefit that comes later. So any of these dollars that we're talking about, especially the relief payment, is confined to the jurisdictions within the MPO, not the rural ones. So I apologize that I did not make that clear.
Okay, thank you. So the floor is still open for other comments from any members of the board.
Stan, can you see a hand raised, or how do you want us to do that?
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Wayne, did you have your hand raised and did I fail to see it?
That's okay. Yeah, let me comment. So John talked a little bit about ARA. Just a reminder for those who weren't involved at the time that in our area, because of the existence of the Pikes Peak RTA, we were able to immediately switch in those ARA funds to build the Woodman Academy interchange, freeing up the funds. So a very similar switch to what we're talking about here, which is use those funds as soon as they become available. I do support it, and I am absolutely in favor of it and having the flexibility. I want to thank Commissioner Hickey, because one of the other commissioners from Region 2 didn't want to spend the money. And you know, his view was rejected by everyone else on the Transportation Commission. I think it is important to get these dollars out where they can actually make a difference in our economy. And I appreciate the leadership of the majority of the Transportation Commission and our commissioner stepping forward to saying, yes, let's spend this, let's use these funds the way they're designed to do. And so I appreciate your willingness to do that, Commissioner, and the rest of the commission. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for those great comments, and appreciate your quick reflection there on that we've done this kind of a process on projects in the past as well. So, okay, any further comments or questions? Oh yes, please go ahead.
This is Commissioner Williams. I wanted to thank the TAC and John just for all of the hard work, and then I'd like to move approval of this item.
Very good, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Don Wilson.
Okay, Mr. Wilson seconds this. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Floor is still open for additional comments, questions, or concerns.
Mr. Chair, Don Wilson, Town Monument.
Yes, please.
I would just also like to thank John. This is a confusing item, and myself and some of my staff needed some remedial training, and John took the time to do that for us. And so we are in support of this going in this direction.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, or Mayor Wilson, and John. It just sounds like you just won the award for remedial trainer. So,
well, I got to tell you, I've been in this business a long time, and I was so confused sometimes. Actually, it was Jennifer Irvin and Brandy who sort of got me turned around, and then Herman who sort of took the time to walk me through it. So, while I appreciate the kudos, all of that really belongs to Herman and Jennifer and Brandy and even Wendy Pettit with CDOT. So I appreciate everyone's time to do that. Yep, Helmer stickers all the way around for everybody. So thank you.
Outstanding. Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any, thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. I appreciate the consideration of the board on this issue. I think it is a great path forward for our community, and thank you so much. Let us go on now to 6A, and then these are not voting items. And the first one is Mountain Metro Transit updates with Craig Blewett.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs, and in that capacity, serve as Director of Mountain Metro Transit. Today, we'd like to present the results of Mountain Metro Transit's rider survey we conducted this past year. It includes riders of our fixed route bus system and the riders with our ADA paratransit Metro mobility system. It gives great insight into who our riders are and their feedback on key aspects of our service. Aaron McCauley, Mountain Metro's Senior Compliance Analyst, managed the survey. and she will be presenting it to you this morning. So I'd like to hand it over to Erin to present our slides.
Thank you, Craig. I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, that worked pretty well. Okay. So as Craig mentioned, I'm Erin McCauley. I am the Senior Compliance Analyst at Mountain Metro. This is basically a triennial survey. We try to do this at least once every 3 years, if not more often. We have been adding a bunch of service lately, so it did make sense to wait a little bit, have everything settled down before doing it again. So the last survey was in 2017, this one's in 2020. Just a quick mention on why we do these things. First, it's really good to get a report card, basically, from your riders to make sure that your service is meeting their needs, to identify anything that we could be doing better, things like that. We also use the demographic data that we collect for our Title VI analyses and environmental justice analyses. So I know that was mentioned earlier. So anytime we add service, change service, delete service, we have to do an analysis to make sure that we're not disproportionately affecting people in vulnerable populations. So we did a fixed route survey in early March, basically the 8th through the 14th. So right before COVID really got going. And we also did a Metro Mobility client survey, although it was a bit more scaled back because of the pandemic, and that had to be postponed till June. So a little bit about the onboard survey. We contracted with FHU, and they employed a bunch of surveyors to go out and disseminate paper surveys on our buses. So we had a basically two-sided paper survey with 33 questions, 14 of which were demographic, 5 on general transit use, how often do you use the bus for these purposes, things like that, 5 for a report card, and 8 on that particular day's bus ride. Where did you start? Where are you going? How did you access the bus? Things like that. We also left 1 open forum for comments. So if anything they wanted to, you know, pass on ideas, things like that, they could. So what did we find? Our rider demographics. Like most transit systems these days, millennials make up a very big portion of our ridership. Gen Z is starting to grow as well, which does make sense. It pretty much doubled from last survey. It was about 10% in the last survey. Now it's almost 20%. It makes sense because Gen Z is getting older. They can use the bus maybe more for different things, use the bus on their own, things like that. We are very heavily male in our ridership. So we've pretty much always been that way, but it has gotten even more so. So we're actually now at a 3-to-2 ratio for male to female riders. Last time we were slightly more male in 2017, but that gap has increased. And this is basically contrary to most transit systems throughout the nation, where most ridership is female. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. As far as employment, most of our riders are employed at least full or part-time. 17% said that they were students, which is interesting and shows that our College Pass programs are working pretty well. We have College Pass relationships with area colleges, CC, UCCS, PPCC, and then we also have a pilot program with a campus on District 11. So they pay a semester fee, and then the students get to ride an unlimited amount of time for that semester. As with the last survey, employment is still mostly in the leisure and hospitality industries. As far as some more rider demographics, our ridership is incredibly low income. If you look at the bottom graph, about 60% of all of our riders come from households that earned less than $24,000 in 2019. So if you add all the 3 bottom brackets together, it's about 80%, a little over 80%, that come from households making less than $40,000 a year. So it is incredibly low income and vulnerable in that way. 73%, I believe, can be determined to be living below the poverty line. So we used 185% of the Health and Human Services guidelines. And so if you look at that, most of our riders are living below poverty line. If you look on the right-hand graph, this kind of shows how the household size and low income go together. So if you see basically the larger the household size and number of people, the more likely that household is to be low income. And then we also have some vehicles kind of in the middle. If we start over here, I don't know if you can see my pointer, but here with the able to drive, you can see most of our riders are able to drive, physically, emotionally able to drive. Then a little under half have a driver's license. But when we get into owning a vehicle and having access to vehicles, that's when the percentages go down. So purple is yes, I do, and yellow is no, I don't. As far as rider types and behaviors, we changed from what was classically the choice rider and the dependent rider to a different kind of classification in 2017 based on a transit center report that recognized that not all riders fit into one of those categories. They caution that, no matter how bad your service is, nobody's really dependent on it. So you really shouldn't be thinking that way, that you will always have this base that will ride your service no matter what. So we went for all-purpose riders, sole-purpose riders, and occasional riders. All-purpose riders ride the bus frequently, regularly for a multitude of different things, commuting from work, going shopping, medical, social, recreational, things like that. So you can see the majority of our ridership uses the bus for just about everything. We also have sole-purpose riders. Most of them are commuters, but some of them, shopping, doing errands, things like that. And then finally, we have occasional riders, which, as the name would suggest, ride the bus occasionally. This is basically who you're going to see on Route 33, which is the free Manitou shuttle. And throughout the system, these are the people who, my car's in the shop, I got to take the bus today, things like that. We asked about how each rider pays their fare. So for the most part, cash is the big one. And subgroups, minorities, and millennials are more likely to pay cash than any other subgroup. The 31-day ticket is next. And if you see the call out to the left, it shows that silent generation members, boomer generation members, have a higher likelihood of paying with a 31-day ticket. That could be because they have the means to do so, to pay for the ticket up front at the beginning of the month and then use it. It could also be that the boomers and the silent generation, once they hit 60 years old, they qualify for half fare. So it could be that they are able to purchase that half fare ticket. We also asked about mobile ticketing, which is one of our initiatives for this year. We were curious if people had a data plan with their smartphone. We knew from the last survey that about 70% had a smartphone. And from this survey, that holds true. It's about 70% of our riders own a smartphone, and only about 30% own a data plan. So we did find, though, when we asked how likely you are to use the mobile ticketing application, the data plan really had nothing to do with it. People who did not have a data plan were very likely to use it, and also not likely to use it. There was just no correlation. What was correlated, though, was the age of the rider. So the younger the rider, the more likely they are to use the mobile ticketing application. And our consultant identified that as one of the strengths by having this young ridership being able to offer mobile ticketing and kind of help them be more convenient, go through their whole lives being transit riders. So this is our report card. We did a quadrant analysis, and strengths and maintenance up at the top. Those are your high satisfaction areas, and opportunities and challenges are low satisfaction areas. To the left, we have the lower importance. To the right, there's the higher importance. So we have 3 pretty good strengths at this point when you look at it from total ridership: safety on the bus, safety at bus stops, and then convenience of transfers. One of the things, though, if we look at the next graph, which is based on gender, so it's split based on gender, you can see E really changes. So females feel that the safety at bus stops and facilities is actually a challenge rather than a strength. This could be something that is driving our loss of maybe female ridership. So we are definitely going to take a look at that. We're going to create some task forces to look at the results of the survey and figure out what we can do to hopefully address some of these concerns going forward. So as I mentioned, we also did a Metro Mobility client survey, and we wanted to do it at about the same time so it can be contemporaneous, but COVID happened. So we went ahead and did a limited survey in June via the telephone. And it's pretty limited because we really didn't want to ask a lot of how do you feel about our service at that time, because people weren't really riding. Day programs were closed down. Not a lot of people were using the service. So we just kept it really mostly demographics. So we can see that our mobility clients are more likely to be unemployed or can't work than our fixed route population. But as far as income, it's about the same, maybe just slightly more low income than our fixed ridership. For this, mostly customers make reservations via the telephone, which is kind of interesting, at least to me, because a lot of them pay for their rides via an online prepaid account. So to me, it's kind of incongruous maybe to, if you're already on paying for your ride or putting money in your account, why aren't you maybe doing your reservation online? But another avenue to look at. We found that subscription use, that's 3 days a week from the same origin to the same destination. A lot of people were aware, but never really used it. It could be that they just don't qualify for it. We also want to keep our subscriptions pretty low. The FTA recommends under 50% because you want to have that open ability for people to book rides, and you don't want all of your service being tied up in these subscriptions. The final graph down at the bottom shows how often Metro Mobility clients ride the service. So there are 3 services: Metro Mobility, the paratransit vans, the taxi choice option, which we offer for trips within 7 miles, and the fixed route bus. So some riders can ride all 3, some can only ride the Metro Mobility vans. So you just show that most people, well, not most people, but a significant number of people use Metro Mobility or complimentary paratransit service pretty regularly. So it just shows you what kind of a lifeline that service is. All right, so our survey is actually available online now on our Metro webpage, and we can go ahead and I can paste that link in the chat, or I think Jessica has the presentation that she can send out to you too. But there's a survey in brief, and then there's the full survey. The full survey has a lot of the writer questions or comments at the end. So it's pretty interesting to read through those. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Great. Are there any questions for Aaron? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much, Craig and Aaron, for your. Oh,
Stan?
I'm sorry. Yes, please go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, sorry, I raised my hand and then typed hand, but I guess it'll take a while to figure out how you're looking for us. I don't just like to jump in all the time. But can you go? Did one of your slides say a higher percentage of people own a vehicle than have access to a vehicle? Yeah.
Yes. So 23% owned a vehicle, but 19% had access to a vehicle. Could be maybe it's a one vehicle household and another member of the household had that vehicle at that particular time. So although they're like co-owner of the vehicle's out doing something.
Okay. Okay.
Or it could be, you know, broken down, all sorts of different options.
Okay. So we didn't do anything deeper than that.
No, not at that point.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none. Again, thank you very much, Craig and Aaron. I appreciate your information presentation, Mountain Metro Transit updates.
Thank you
very much.
You are very welcome. Let's go to the next item, performance measures target setting from CDOT. I think this is Darius. Darius.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Board, for having me today. My name is Darius Pockbaz. I am with the Division of Transportation Development at the Colorado Department of Transportation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the national performance measures, in particular the pavement measure, which the state has recently decided to adjust the 4-year target for, which now MPOs have the option to either support the state target or develop their own targets for those particular areas. Every year, the safety targets have to be adopted by the state and MPO. However, targets for infrastructure conditions, which include pavement and bridge, and the interstate and non-interstate national highway system reliability measures need to be are only done every 4 years, with an option to adjust those targets every 2 years. And I have a quick presentation if I can share my, Jess is going to pull it up. So thank you, appreciate that. I can present as well if that will make it easier.
Yeah, you have control to be able to pull it up yourself. That's totally
okay. Fine. Okay. Everybody can see this okay? No issues with seeing that?
Looks good.
All right, sounds good. The performance measures are required under the FAST Act, which was passed in 2015, and around 2018 was the first year that we started doing them, and we set the initial targets then. In particular, we're talking about the pavement metrics, which include performance of the interstate system and performance of the non-interstate national highway system, and that includes pavement that is roadways that are owned by the state and roadways that are on the national highway system that are not owned by the state as well. Now, there is a minimum performance level for the interstate system on the poor condition only, and we cannot exceed more than 5%. If the state exceeds the minimum condition, they lose the flexibility of a portion of their federal funds. We are not currently in that state right now. And just as a side note, under the department's policy directive 14, we currently report drivability life as the primary asset management performance metric, which uses some of the same distressors and indicators as the national performance metric. I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly. These just state how the measure is calculated, which includes cracking, rutting, faulting, and international roughness index. Present service value, the middle one right here, is not used within the state. And then this is just a calculation metrics on how these are calculated for each segment of pavement, which is around 1/10 of a mile. This slide right here just indicates what the difference between what CDOT uses for their own metric for our asset management condition and investment decisions and the national performance metric. As you can see, it uses all the same different types of distresses, but the threshold is slightly different between the two. Just as a side note, for the drivability metrics, we are currently meeting all of the set targets for those as of the 2009 condition, which is the data as of June. Now, moving on to the National Performance Measure Standard, these are the 4 measures: the good and poor condition on the interstate system, and good and poor condition of the national highway system that is non-rated, non-interstate. The old statewide targets, as you can see, are on the right. The new revised target that was adopted by the Commission in September is on the left, the new conditions on the right. And we do have the condition within the PPACG MPO area as well for reference. Some of the main change from when the targets were originally set was due to better data collections, particularly in the cracking distressor, which we talked about earlier. That pushed up much of the poor condition as, from the original estimates that were done in 2017 when targets had to be set, but actual data was not available. And based on our modeling, the new targets were recommended by staff at CDOT, and they were adopted by the Commission in September. These couple of slides give an indication of what the condition within the Pikes Peak area is over the past few years that we do have data. This is the non-interstate national highway system pavement, currently at around 31% good and about 4.5% poor. For the interstate system, the I-25 corridor through the region, around 57% is in good condition and less than 1% is in poor condition. This map here, I know it can be a little hard to read, but gives you an idea of where the good and poor segments are within the region and within the statewide boundary as well, with the green being good and the red being in the poor category and yellow being in that fair category, which does not have a target associated with it.
And this is Commissioner Stan. Just a quick question on that last chart, if I might ask.
Yes.
It's just it kind of jumps out at you a little bit. Actually, to go forward, it's the map.
Yes.
So just to make sure I understand this, the roads that are illustrated there within our region are CDOT roads. Is that correct?
This is all NHS roads, so it includes
all
both.
NHS.
Yeah,
Okay.
it includes both CDOT and locally owned. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was the question, so I'm good.
For me, that map's a little hard to read. Is it possible to get it in a spreadsheet format or in a map that I can blow up better? And I think one of those might be a road that a Pikes Peak RTA project has just finished since it's 2018 data. But I'd like to get it in a more readable fashion so I can follow up on roads, particularly in the city of Colorado Springs.
Yes, we have provided to PPACG PPACG staff a listing of all the 10th mile segments. I believe we have provided these maps, but I'll check with them to make sure in PDF format so they're more readable, and we can share those as well.
Thanks, Darius.
Thank you. So finally, the next steps for the pavement condition targets. As I said, the department has already set the state targets. Those have been approved by the Transportation Commission. They were reported to FHWA on October 1st. And MPOs throughout the state, all 5 of them have 180 days to either support the state targets or to set their own for the pavement targets, since those were the only targets that were changed at this midpoint in the performance period. And that date is March 30th of 2021. That is the deadline. As far as continuation of evaluating these measures, we provide data annually, usually in October, to all the MPOs to provide information on what was collected for the year. And the next target setting activities will begin in around spring of 2022 with the targets due on October 1 of 2022 for the next performance period, which will set 2 and 4 year targets for pavement, bridges, and reliability as well. And the CMAQ
Darius,
program.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to let you know, there is a chat about getting a copy of the presentation. Actually, now Catherine Wenger says it's that they'll send out the slides, which is great. Again, back to that map that both Mr. Williams and I kind of commented to. You don't need to go back to it though. Well, actually, so you have. I might just be missing it. And it might be a little bit because I've got, pictures of all of us that's blocking part of the right side of the screen. But, because we do represent 3 counties, I kind of see this thing on the left that's Colorado Springs, but I'm not sure I'm seeing, where we have greens and yellows and oranges in Teller and Park. So maybe that is somewhere and I just missed it. And if you don't have it, when the charts get sent to us, maybe that could be added so that we can see all 3 of our counties.
Yes, that is something that we definitely can do. Most of Park County is US 285. In Teller County, I believe is mostly US 24, but we can get this a little bit blown up so that way you can see which roads are in good and poor condition. Especially when we do new maps for the 2019 data.
Thank you.
So with that, open to any further questions from the board.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Darius? All right, hearing none, thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation. And if you could just follow up with the comments that were already made, that'd be outstanding.
Of course. Thank you, Chair, and thanks the board for your time today.
You're welcome. Let's go to item number 7, information items. The first is safety target setting, PPACG, and Catherine. This will be for you to present.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Catherine Wenger, Senior Transportation Planner at PPACG. And this is semi-related to what Darius just talked about as far as performance measures. So thanks, Darius. We really appreciate you coming and talk with us. These ones that I'm going to talk about are the safety performance targets, which he also mentioned that we have to set targets for every year annually around the same time. We had Alyssa Babler come to the board last month to talk about how CDOT has changed their safety targets for the year and how they kind of made some updates based on their new safety plan that they adopted recently. And so as an MPO, we are required to set new targets every year. And as an MPO, we can either set our own targets or we can adopt to support the state targets. So we wouldn't be adopting their targets per se for our region. It would be adopting to say that we support the state targets, and through our project selection process through the TIP and the long range plan is how we support those targets. So we make project selections based on safety and pavement and any other performance targets. And so in this memo, you'll see there are 5, make sure I have that number right, 5 safety targets that we have to set. There is the number of fatalities, the fatality rate, the number of serious injuries, serious injury rate, and then the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries are combined together. And so that's bike and ped for that. And so the targets that that the CDOT has set for 2021, and that's the calendar year, are in the memo. And this is just an information item to let you know that PPACG, can't say it, PPACG staff is recommending that we support the state targets again, as we have over the past few years. And this was the information this month, and I would be bringing it back next month for a recommended approval of supporting the state targets. In your attachments, you'll have the CDOT safety plan and target setting information presentation that Alyssa talked about last month, and then also some additional safety target setting data from our region is in your second attachment. With that, I can take any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for this item? And hearing none, thank you, Catherine. Just one quick point for me. I do see the safety targets below. I think at sometime during the year, we also kind of get an understanding about number of fatalities, fatality rate, and so forth within our MPO. And that may, Andy, that maybe is a question for you. Do we do that at some time during the year? It would also be good to see a comparison, say, from a previous year to 2020. And I think we do that.
Sure. Yeah, we can pull that together. And as we've talked about in the past, this is becoming more of a focus area for us. Jason O'Brien has given a couple of presentations on what we're doing as far as safety. So sure, we'd be happy to put that together and bring it back to the board. Good.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to kind of compare the statistics between 19 and 20, because sometimes I hear we actually have more fatalities and so forth as a result of 2020, but I know we've driven a lot less miles, so it'd be interesting to see the numbers and do a little comparison, so thanks.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, great. Let's go on to the next item, 7B, Small Business Relief Program.
Sure, and Mr. Chair, I'll take this, and then I'm going to kick it over to Casey Partridge, our finance manager, as well, to kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. But we just wanted to get the word out. We mentioned this last week at the board workshop, but just trying to get this out as often as we can. We were approached by El Paso County to apply for the small business relief funds that were made available by the state legislature through their special session last month. So we have applied for those funds through DOLA. I don't know that we've gotten an exact amount back yet as far as how much we're going to get within the county, but it's intended for businesses that were really impacted by severe capacity restrictions like restaurants, bars, gyms, and movie theaters and the like. And Casey and our finance team are going to be doing the heavy lifting and working with another entity to get those checks out the door. So Casey, did you want to say a few words?
No, we've heard that our application has been accepted and that we should hear how much we received by the end of the week. We're working with our outside contractor on their making the decision and taking all the applications and verifying all of the information. And so we're hoping to start getting information early in February, and checks need to be out the door by the 12th. We're anticipating sending out about 1,000 checks to local restaurants and businesses that are eligible. We will be coming back to the board because this is a large amount of money. We're thinking over $5 million or close to that. We will be coming back to the board at a later date for an amendment to our budget, because that needs to flow through our financials and will have an impact on our total overall budget. So you'll be hearing more about it at the next board meeting on the award amounts and how many checks we sent out, but we'll also be coming back at a later date for a board amendment.
Good. Most important thing I should mention that you should take away, the application period is open until January 29th, I think 5 o'clock. So it's available through our website, I think through the county's website. Colorado Enterprise Fund is actually the one accepting the applications, but we're all linked together. But Friday, January 29th is the deadline to apply.
Great. Any other questions on this topic? And I just would like to express my appreciation to PPACG and the board and team in its partnership with the county in order for this program to go forward and help our businesses and our community. So thank you very much for that. Let's go ahead on to reports, and we've got military installation reports. Do we have any representatives from our military installations available and willing to give a report this week or this month?
Yes, good morning, Commissioner. It's Colonel Jennifer Fitch from the Peterson-Schriever Garrison.
Please proceed.
Yes, just a special thank you to Mr. John Leosados and Shane Ferguson, the PPACG and CDOT teams for the leadership briefing that we received on Monday regarding ongoing projects around Peterson, Schriever, and Cheyenne Mountain. That information gives us critical situational awareness. We greatly appreciate the efforts to keep the roads safe in our community that this entire organization provides. In particular, we're grateful for the early completion of the westbound lane on 94 and the ongoing progress on the eastbound as well. We're looking forward to Friday's discussion, I believe, regarding Highway 24 and Peterson Boulevard with Brian Potts and continued J-list discussions as well. As many of you are aware, the Secretary of the Air Force sent a team virtually and in person to conduct a site visit here and at 5 other locations in the U.S. Facing decision of U.S. Space Command. Currently, we host U.S. Space Command provisionally, but this was a discussion about permanent basing. The governor and the mayor and many city officials, to include Kate Hatton, presenting on the Homefront Military Network, engaged with this team, and we anticipate a decision may be made in the next political climate.
I'm so sorry, Colonel. Your last sentence did not come through. If you might repeat that.
Yes, we anticipate.
We might just be getting a glitch here just for the moment. My apologies, Colonel, but if you might repeat it one more time, let's hope we hear it.
Yes, we may anticipate a release of the decision for the permanent basing of U.S. Space Command in the next few weeks.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yes. No, absolutely. And as soon as we are aware or made aware, we'll be sure to relay that to team members across the community. Regarding COVID, we did see a bit of a spike after the holidays, but nothing like what we saw after Thanksgiving. So we anticipate, just for your awareness, returning from 25% in-person work across the garrison to 50% sometime in the next couple of weeks as well, as long as that holds. We have received vaccines and continue to administer them to first responders and medical personnel. And then we'll be looking at the next tier of operators for our critical missions, and then the general population, military independence. If you have any questions for me, I'll take them at this time.
Yes, thank you, Colonel. And if I might ask you a question, being a veteran myself and being aware that there is, I think, a national strategy to provide vaccines to veterans through the military bases, but I've been unable to really ascertain any understanding of a process that may or may not take place as a result of that. Now, obviously, it's kind of a really big issue for our community because we've got 100,000 vets here. So I don't know if there's some information on that. You don't need to try to provide it right now if you don't have it in front of you, but if there might be a way to figure out, what would be a pathway for a veteran to receive a vaccine. And kind of the important thing there for me is whether they have the capacity, maybe they need to go to the VA's office, maybe they can go to a post or a base, or maybe they just need to rely on the distribution coming from the state itself, the process where everybody else gets vaccinated. That's really just trying to get an answer to that question.
Yes, sir. I'll research it and get you specifics. I know our MTFs across the region are working together on our top priorities. And by that, I mean our first responders and medical. And we are just completing that first stage. The second stage is our military priority personnel. And then after that, we do get into the military population and then retirees and families, dependents, and I'm sure veterans. But in particular to your veteran question, sir, I'll do a little research and get you some good information.
Yeah, thank you very much. I certainly myself have no issue with the priority. If you're receiving vaccines, you've got to get that to your personnel that are conducting the mission. And it's not a question about that at all. It's just, what might be able to happen for veterans coming through the bases. And if there isn't anything, if if it turns out not enough vaccine will come through those posts and bases, then the advice we can give to veterans is to seek those vaccines through the non-veteran process within the community.
Absolutely. I'll see if I can get you a better answer. Obviously, it's a fluid situation currently, but as time goes on, we should be able to provide some really good reference specifics and information to the community.
Yes. Thank you, Colonel. I appreciate your willingness to do some research on that.
This is Holly. I will see if I can find some information real quick in my email. I noticed that the El Paso County Veterans Services Office is having some kind of webinar today at 4 o'clock about the vaccine and distribution to vets. So Colonel Peterson, Colonel Fitch, you may not have to research that. I may have the answer in my email. So let's see.
I appreciate, okay. I appreciate that, Holly. If you do have it, please share it so we can share it with the military-based community as well. More information we can get out, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Are there any other representatives from our military installations with a report? Okay, hearing none. Moving from 8B through 8F. The minutes are provided in our packet, so there's no presentations today, but I'd like to open the floor if anybody had reviewed those packets and had any questions. And hearing none, let's go to 8G, CDOT monthly update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. First of all, I just want to say happy 2021, and hopefully this year is a little closer to normal than the last year, when we can start getting together and meeting face to face. I didn't mention it in my comments on your previous action item, but again, I'd like to echo the sentiments. Thanks to the TAC and to John and Andy for coming together during the height of the holiday season and scrambling and holding multiple meetings and working through issues and thinking outside of the box to develop really multiple wins through this program for the area. So I really appreciate, we wouldn't be in the place we are without all that hard work by everybody. So the only item I really had to update you on before I turn it over to Shane for some project updates is, talking about additional funding, Senate Bill 267. We're still feeling pretty bullish about year 3 of that funding coming forward. We'll probably know more in the next 2 to 3 months, more than likely. But in preparation of that funding being available, we're going back and revisiting what projects are on our plan and what projects are going to pull forward. For example, because you guys have graciously agreed to partially fund the Powers Research Interchange. That's freed some money underneath what would have been on that project list for year 3, Senate Bill 267. So over the next month or so, we'll be coming together and pulling together our ideas and what the project should be, and then communicating with the various planning partners that we have throughout the region. So expect to hear more about that going forward over the next month to month and a half. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Shane for some project updates.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Congratulations. And if I may, go Boilers. I'll start off with projects.
Sorry.
I-25, the cable rail project on south of I-25, south of Fountain. That project has been completed, and we're doing some punch list items, but that is well underway and well completed. So successful project there. Regarding the MAMSIP project, we are still progressing towards a spring activity on the I-25 Charter Oaks Ranch Road, as well as South Academy. As you well know, 94, the first package has been completed. We still have work to do, as was alluded to earlier, to the eastbound side, but the westbound passing lanes are completed, and we have a few punch list items to clean up, but for the most part, that is open and running forward. Bridge replacement project out on US 24 East. This is located between Peyton and Calhan. A project is being let for advertisement to the contractors here this month. We expect that project to get underway and probably be under construction late spring, early summer. So some activity between Peyton and Calhan. And then the last project, second to the last project I want to talk about a little bit, is we did let a resurfacing project here in town, essentially on 4 ramp locations, I-25 at North Academy, I-25 at Interquest, I-25 and Briargate, and then State Highway 115 at the NORAD exit, a surface treatment project that that you'll see pretty short duration for each location, but for the most part, it'll begin again late spring once weather permits. Regarding research and powers, we're looking to late March, early April advertisement date for the contractors with shovels in the ground in the summer timeframe. I'd say June, July timeframe, depending on contracting and how that process goes. Pretty excited about that, but we are full steam ahead to get this out on the streets. And so outside of that, if you have any questions for me at this time.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate it. Any questions for CDOT, either for Shane or for Richard? And hearing none, I just want to express my appreciation for what's going on with research and powers. But actually, I was not aware about the surface treatment at several of the intersections at I-25. So good to hear that that's going on as well. So thank you so much. All right, let's move on to 8H, Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee updates. And
Holly,
Andy, do we?
Yeah, Holly, you're on mute. I don't know if you or if John L. We're going to give that update.
If they don't want to, this is Dick Elsner. I can
yeah.
tell you that. Go ahead, Holly.
Well, and Dick, you can certainly help. I think that most of our update was covered in the item that we voted on. Our meeting is this Friday. I was looking over the agenda, and I think it's just back to the basic stuff. We're talking, I lost my agenda now. Hang on, let me pull it up. We'll be talking about the state legislature, statewide plan implementation update. We'll be talking about Senate Bill 267 and also the interchange approval process update. I think that, it's kind of back to a basic meeting. I know in the state legislature, we received an update from CCI that we might be looking at. There seems to be a little bit of progress on some sort of funding mechanism involving road usage charge for electric vehicles, and also maybe the gas tax. But and that, clearly the counties will advocate that is spread out, it's a statewide solution and not regional solution, so that it benefits all of the counties, including the rural, and just not the metro counties that we have sales tax and other methods. So we'll be watching those things very closely once the state legislature gets into session, because we want to make sure that we take care of all of our rural counties, and as my husband says, that we don't balkanize the state into different regions based upon sales tax. So we're trying to get to some statewide solution before DRCOG decides to go off and do their own RTA, essentially, is I think what we're going to have to watch for really closely.
Great, thank you. Any questions with regard to the stack update? Thanks, team, for that update. Let's go now to the executive director's report. Andy, I think you are up.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just three things real briefly. Thank you for everybody who was able to attend our legislative roundtable last week virtually. I think we had really good turnout by the board, great turnout by our legislators. We got really good feedback from folks during and then after that session. It's always a valuable discussion to have and to keep our engagement and collaboration going with our state legislators. So we didn't put anything on the agenda for today's meeting because it's a pretty packed agenda, but we'll start getting our legislative committee together soon, I'm sure. We've got a delay, obviously, when the legislature is fully back in swing. They're in for a couple of days this week, and then Jessica and I will get together and put the call out to folks that want to serve on the legislative committee for 2021, and probably get that group together here later in January, so we can get focused on statewide issues, but then even maybe start talking about some of the federal issues that may be coming down the pike as well. We could certainly take advantage of former Commissioner Steen's offer to have a dialogue with him as far as what's happening on federal issues. good, decent chance that something may happen as far as possibly a transportation bill later this year, since it's been a continuing resolution. So I think there's opportunities for us to engage at the federal level as well, like we've discussed in the past. So just stay tuned with that, with further legislative committee work. Second item, just want to mention that over the past couple of weeks, we've taken, we've accepted, I think it's 23 pallets of food boxes from FEMA for our seniors throughout the region. And thankfully, they haven't all been delivered to PPACG. We didn't have the space in our conference room, I don't think, to take them all. But we had so many partners across the region, literally across the region, that helped us accept delivery of those and get them out to where the needs are. And it's, you know, out on the Eastern Plains and in Rush and down in Fountain and up in the Tri-Lakes area, and then up in Teller and Park counties as well. And really, especially want to thank the Teller and Park County leadership and commissioners and your staff for helping to come down and pick up and then redistribute our food boxes for seniors. It's really going to be critical, you know, to get through this winter and with the pandemic, to make sure our seniors have the resources they need. So thank you all for that. It's been a really good effort to get some additional support out. And then finally, just want to mention bittersweet news. Sorry to announce that Brian Potts, our joint land use planning manager, is going to be leaving PPACG. His last day with us is going to be February 15th. It's good news for him. He got married last year and is going to be settling down in the Carolinas. So we're happy for him, but sad to see him go. Obviously, he's left us in a really good position with our joint land use program that plans around our military installations, dealing with land use and environmental and other issues. So stay tuned for that. We'll make an announcement as far as you know, going forward with recruiting for a new manager here in the next couple of months. We want to make sure we get our next grant for the JLUS program before we make an announcement to start recruiting for his replacement. And we should find out in the next month or two if we got our next implementation grant. So more to follow on that. So
Andy, should we tell him that he's not allowed to go until we get that grant?
Part of the deal, but no, it's all good. We're in really good shape.
Okay.
I'll take good care of you guys before I leave.
Excellent. Hey, Brian, thank you very much for the service you've provided to our community and to PPACG. By the way, congratulations. I didn't know you got married, so that's awesome. And the Carolinas are a good place to live. You'll enjoy it down there. I hope, wish you the best in your future endeavors on behalf of the board.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you guys. And I can't tell you how much how fulfilling this job has been. And I can only hope that I'll find something that matches this somewhere else. So I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much. Andy, do you have any more updates? Okay, no more updates there. We now are moved to number 9, member entity announcements. Does any member of the board have an update they'd like to provide?
This is Sharon Thompson. I got an exciting text during the meeting that PPLD is opening up again on the 19th with COVID restrictions. So if you're a library nerd like I am, you'll be able to go inside and breathe the fumes from the books and enjoy browsing again.
Oh, that's great news. And are there any other updates from any of the board members? Okay, hearing none, I have no further update myself. Just thank you, everybody, for a great meeting. It was a long meeting. Oh, excuse me a second. That was apologies. That was my phone. I guess number 10, we do have a meeting scheduled, but that is posted within the packet. So I guess I need to just ask if anybody has any questions about any of those meeting items. I'm certain Andy would be happy to answer any questions about those in any follow-on phone call to him if anybody has questions on those meetings. And hearing none, I think we are at adjournment. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the participation. Welcome to the new board members and the new executive team and the committee assignments. Congratulations to everyone. 2021 is going to be a better year than 2020. Look forward to working with you over this year as your board chair, and thank you for your trust in me. You all have a great day. Thank you so much. This adjourns the meeting.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good job, Stan.
Thank you, Jill.